Alex Eala closed out the biggest win of her career, and within hours the story had already outgrown the tennis court entirely, moving into Congress, into celebrity commentary, and now into a genuine online debate about whether a former US president is about to weigh in. If you've been tracking every milestone this player has racked up this year, you already know why this channel exists. Let's get into what actually happened in Washington and what's fueling the speculation everyone's talking about right now. Start with the match itself, because none of what came after makes sense without it. Eala walked into the DC Open final against Jessica Pegula, the world's third-ranked player, a veteran top-5 fixture and one of the steadiest ball strikers on tour. She lost the first set 6-4 against a player like Pegula. That's not a small deficit. That's usually the kind of scoreline that tells you exactly how a match is going to end. Then the weather intervened. Rain suspended play that night, with Pegula still ahead early in the second set, forcing Eala to leave the court, go back to her hotel, and sit with an unfinished final overnight. Think about what that actually means. You're 21 years old, down a set in the biggest match of your career, and instead of finishing while your adrenaline is still running, you have to try to sleep on it and come back the next morning with the whole tournament still hanging over you. A lot of players don't recover from a break like that. It gives doubt time to grow and gives your opponent time to recalibrate. Eala came back out the next day and didn't just recover. She erased Pegula completely. She won the last 9 games of the match, 9 straight against a top-3 player in a final after trailing. She took the second set 6-4, then turned the third into a demonstration, closing it out 6-0 and allowing Pegula only a handful of points across the entire set. That result made her the first player from the Philippines ever, at any point in the sport's history, to win a WTA tour-level singles title. Think about every Filipino tennis player who came before her across decades of the sport. None of them got here, she just did, and this wasn't a soft draw handing her a lucky run to the final either. Her path through the tournament included beating a reigning Olympic gold medalist in 3 sets, an emotional comeback win over fellow Filipina Lila Fernandez after trailing badly, and then wins over all 3 of the tournament's top seeds, Svitolina, Osaka, and finally Pegula in the final. That's not a fortunate bracket. That's a genuine gauntlet cleared start to finish. Before she ever got to Pegula, she had to get through a 4-time Grand Slam champion in the semifinal, beating Naomi Osaka in straight sets. What Osaka said afterward is exactly the kind of quote that turns a tournament win into something bigger. She called Eala an amazing, incredible player and said it's genuinely cool to have someone like her that people can look up to. That's not a courtesy line. That's a 4-time major champion on record calling a 21-year-old an inspiration to her face. Eala, for her part, stayed remarkably grounded through the entire run. Right after beating Osaka, she admitted the scale of the win hadn't fully sunk in yet, and took time to specifically thank the fans who'd packed the stands, saying the tournament deserved nothing less than its best supporters. That instinct to redirect credit outward instead of soaking in the spotlight is a big part of why people keep gravitating toward her as a story, not just as a result. Here's where this stops being purely a tennis headline and becomes something closer to a genuine national moment. The Philippine House of Representatives formally adopted a resolution congratulating her specifically for this win, officially recognizing her as the first Filipino to ever capture a WTA tour-level singles title. A representative filed it personally, putting her name directly into the country's legislative record. And this wasn't buried in some routine committee session either. Reports indicate lawmakers paused business in the middle of an active impeachment proceeding, one of the most serious constitutional processes a government can run, specifically to talk about a tennis match. That's not a small gesture tucked into a slow afternoon. That's a government deciding a tennis result was important enough to interrupt genuinely serious business, and this isn't a one-off reaction to a lucky week either. This has been a running pattern all year. Weeks earlier, after her Wimbledon round of 16 run, the House had already adopted a separate resolution honoring her for becoming the first Filipino to reach that stage at a Grand Slam. Before that, resolutions had already been filed recognizing her US Open main draw appearance and an earlier junior Grand Slam title. Every single time she's broken new ground, Congress has written it into the official record. That tells you how deeply this one athlete has become woven into national pride, not just how big one headline is. Now, about the Obama speculation, because it's genuinely everywhere online right now, and it deserves an honest breakdown rather than a confident claim either way. There's no confirmed statement from Barack Obama about this win as of now. What's actually fueling the rumor is precedent. Obama has a documented history of publicly congratulating breakout athletes at exactly this kind of career turning point, and fans have been drawing direct comparisons to his past public shout-outs for other rising stars, most notably Coco Gauff during her own breakthrough years. That comparison is what's giving the speculation real traction in comment sections and group chats, not any actual confirmed statement. It's worth being upfront about that distinction, because the anticipation itself has become part of the online conversation, even without anything official behind it yet. Whether he ends up posting anything or not, the argument going around is that the story doesn't really need it to matter. Congress already stopped what it was doing for her, and a four-time major champion already called her an inspiration on camera. What's genuinely well documented and doesn't need any speculation attached to it is the crowd. Reporters on the ground throughout the tournament described Filipino supporters flooding the stadium all week, waving flags and even applauding missed serves from her opponents, a real breach of typical tennis etiquette that absolutely nobody in that crowd seemed to care about. When she did post-match interviews at the outdoor broadcast desk, fans reportedly followed her there just to keep cheering from behind the cameras. That's not standard behavior at a mid-tier American hardcourt event that isn't traditionally built around a Filipino fan base. That's a crowd behaving like she was playing a home Grand Slam 3,000 miles from Manila. Local community groups organized watch parties, families brought children wrapped in flags, and vendors near the venue reportedly sold out of anything featuring Philippine colors well before the final even started. There's a broader ripple effect building here too, and it goes past this one tournament. Parents in Manila have reportedly started signing kids up for tennis lessons specifically because of her, and local clubs noted a spike in interest going back to her Wimbledon run well before this title even happened. That's the kind of long-term impact that outlasts a single trophy. Kids picking up a sport because they watch someone who looks like them and sounds like them succeed at the very top of it. It's also worth putting this win in the context of everything that led up to it, because it isn't isolated. She reached the Miami Open quarterfinals last year as a wild card ranked outside the top 140, beating a five-time Grand Slam champion along the way in a result that stunned the tennis world at the time. She won her first grass court title in Birmingham earlier this season. She reached the round of 16 at Wimbledon this year, another Filipino first that Congress had already formally recognized before this DC title ever happened. Every one of these milestones has its own resolution now sitting in the country's legislative record, which means the paper trail of her career is, quite literally, becoming part of national history in real time. The title itself came with meaningful stakes beyond the moment, significant ranking points, and a six-figure prize purse, plus a projected career-high ranking once the updated standings land. Before this tournament, the Philippines had never produced a single tour-level singles champion in the sport's modern history in either the men's or women's game. Tennis has spent decades sitting in the shadow of basketball and boxing back home. That changed permanently the moment the final point landed against Bagula. So here's where this actually stands. A historic first for Filipino tennis, a government pausing serious constitutional business to formally recognize it, a four-time major champion calling her an inspiration on camera, a stadium 3,000 miles from home that behaved like a national holiday for a week straight, and an entirely unconfirmed but genuinely widespread hope that a former US president with a track record of doing exactly this might add his voice to it too. So here's what I want to know. Do you think Obama actually says something? Or does this stay speculation? And more importantly, where does this DC title rank against everything else she's done this year? Drop it in the comments. If you've been tracking every one of these milestones as they happen, subscribe, because we're covering the next chapter of this story the moment it lands.